In this video, we're going to be going over symmetrical modeling. We already know how the mirror tool works, so let's look at a few new tools that are going to make symmetrical modeling a lot easier. So again, normally when we're symmetrical modeling, we're modeling where we want the thing on the right to be the same as the thing on the left. There's a few things we want to take into consideration. The first thing is our mesh. We want to make sure that we never move it in item mode. So item mode would be if I hit 5, clicked on it, it would have the yellow wireframe. I hit W and it moves. Really haven't covered this that much, but it just moved over negative 360 millimeters. It says that transform right there. But also, since it was an item mode, the transform over here was moved. So if I hit the space bar to drop the tool, pay attention to over here, 360, and over here, 360. Space bar escape. Drops the tool. This 360 stays. Let's hit the W key again to move. So over here it reset. So this transform, you can think of it as temporary. But if we move something in item mode, it's going to be permanent. So again, I can grab this whole box, move it over, space bar, move key again. This one zeroes back out. This one still says 360. So let's move it even farther over. Still says 360 because we're moving the polygons at this point. Same thing happens if I grab the vertices, move those, grab the edges and move those. You can see this blue line is our center line. He's way over here. This guy is still set to negative 360. So let's undo that real quick. So realistically, our mirror tool, our symmetrical modeling tools aren't going to work very well if we ever move something in item mode. So if you did move something in item mode and you want to recenter it, what you can do is I can just grab its polygons, center selected on the X because I want to center it left and right, so click on that. Now the mesh is sitting in the center of the scene, but over here it still has that negative 360 value. So this, if I was to zero this out, our mesh moves back that negative 360. So it kind of has a memory. So what we can do is realize that this mesh is kind of what has that memory of this item. So what I can do is grab all these polygons, copy them, new mesh, paste, and now this is the one that has that memory of negative 360. Our cube is actually right here. So let's just delete this one out, use this cube. Now we have everything zeroed out. So again, you have to kind of intentionally move something in item mode. Sometimes it happens by accident, but very rarely. But just know that that's something. Over here, my mesh, everything is 0. Scale, everything is 100. If these values change, you're not going to have a fun time symmetrical modeling. So now that those little stipulations are out of the way, let's get into this. So when you're symmetrical modeling, your best bet to do is to actually have a symmetry line, or right down the middle of your mesh, right on the y-axis that goes up and down. I'm going to do a loop slice, set it to uniform so it's at 50%, hit the escape key. This is what's called a symmetry line. So anything that happens with this, we want to make sure that this line, no matter how we play around with this model, this line we want to always be here. So from here, if we were to start modeling on half of this, at any time we could just delete this half, go to our duplicate tab, mirror, x-axis, all zeros, hit apply. Another thing I just want to mention, merge vertices. Usually you want to turn this on if it's not on, like right now it's not on. I'm going to hit spacebar to drop that tool. If I double click this, it didn't merge the vertices together, these vertices right here. So this is 2 separate pieces. So what we're going to do, so we're going to hit that mirror tool again, have merge vertices turned on, right click or hit that apply button, spacebar. Now we double click and it's all a solid piece. So again, normally by default this merge vertices is turned on, you just want to make sure that it's turned on. So from here, we can continue modeling this. And again, we're not making anything in particular, we're just using the extrude key a bunch. So now I can go this way, mirror right click, and now I have all that geometry. But there's a tool that'll let us actually model both halves of the mesh at the same time. And that would be this little tool up here. It's called Symmetry. So if I click on that, it says Symmetry X. So X is going to be left and right, and it's going to be going kind of across this blue axis. I'm sorry, this red axis. So again, the blue axis is the z-axis. You can always think of this as the front and back of your mesh. Z positive, or z in the plus. So if I spin around this way, it'll say z plus right here. Spin around this way, z minus, z negative. The z positive is always going to be the front of your mesh. And the same thing, x positive is going to be the right of the mesh. Or if it's a character, you'd say it's the character's left. So again, this I can turn on and off by pressing this button. The other thing, kind of a hidden feature, if I hold the Alt key and click on the Symmetry button, it lets me symmetrize left to right, up, down, does a handful of other things. But we'll just leave it set to default. So Symmetry, X, Work Plane, all those things turned on. Now if I click on a polygon, I click on this one, it knows, it sees this symmetry line going across the x-axis, and it knows if I click on this one, it knows to click on that one. So if I move this one to the right, the other one correspondingly moves the other direction, which is really cool. So if I model, what's happening on the right is consistently happening on the left as well. So effectively, we can cut our modeling time in half. We don't have to model two hands of a character. We just model one, make sure thumb's on the correct side, and then we get a free left hand at the same time. Really, really cool stuff. So just some more best practices. Whenever you're using a new tool like this, it's usually good to save early and save often, because you really, if you haven't used it a lot, you don't know what it can and can't do. And sometimes you might ask a little too much of something. Like some tools, for example, they'll work perfectly well with symmetry. So I can come in here, I can do a loop slice, and grab this little guy right here, B for bevel, bevel both edges. I can delete a polygon, do an edge extend again. Oops, accidentally turned snapping on, so let's undo that. So edge extend again, there we go. I can use my edge slice tool, so cut from here to here, but some tools won't work. So this is something you just gotta kind of get a feel for it and see what works and what doesn't work. Almost every tool in here is gonna work just fine. Some of them might be a little bit more complicated than others and be more likely to cause Modo to crash, but usually you're not gonna really have much trouble with it crashing at all. Another thing you kind of want to be aware of is the scale tool acts a little bit goofy when you have symmetry on. So let's turn the scale tool on, hit R to scale, and I'm scaling this little piece in and out. It's kind of behaving normally. But let's grab the whole mesh itself. Now let's scale it. Our scale tool's over here. Let's scale it on this axis. Everything seems to work fine. Scale it up and down. Scale it in and out, everything's working fine. Let's scale it on all axes at the same time. You can see that once I scale through the middle, things kind of break. And the other thing is I'm losing volume in the middle. It's like this little part right here is getting more and more narrow. So if I wanted to uniformly scale this up, I'm actually going to turn symmetry off, then scale it up. Then I can turn symmetry back on and continue modeling and doing whatever I want to do. The other thing, the move tool is going to work a little bit funny. Up and down and forward and back are going to work as you'd expect. If I move it to the right and to the left, Again, the center line is not moving, but I can't actively move this away from the center line. If for whatever reason I was done modeling this and I wanted to move it left or right, just turn symmetry off and I can move it left or right. So again, some weird things with that scale tool working as intended. If you're in the center of the scene, it's okay. So just be careful and try to pay attention to what's happening almost on both sides, or if you need to get in here and do some quick modeling, do an edge extend and then a couple extrusions and then zoom out. Just look at the other side. Oh, so see, we kind of screwed up. I was modeling on this side. I didn't have symmetry on, so it didn't happen on this side. So we're going to make another video that'll correct that, but let's just do this again. Same scenario, symmetry's on this time. That's just another one of those examples of pay attention to what you're doing or something bad might happen. So again, zoom out, make sure that this looks like this side, and then you're good to go and you can keep on modeling. So again, take advantage of modeling symmetrically. I have a few more tutorials later on in the class that'll help you out with this. But again, extremely powerful tool, extremely powerful workflow. You just need to be kind of aware of how to use it. And again, the more you work with it, the more comfortable you'll get.